Saludos amigos, los invitamos a escuchar la mesa redonda de Round Table, donde discutimos los temas del día, hablando de política, educación y otros temas, locales, regionales y mundiales, por USALA Radio. De Round Table desde el corazón del barrio hispano, en la ciudad del amor fraternal. Estamos aquí con Karis Painter y acaba de llegar tarde, como siempre, Martin Pratt.
Welcome, Martin.
Hola.
Welcome, Martin.
Thank you for having me.
Johan Bermúdez desmanejando el tablero y bueno, we want to talk about briefly. We have to mention it because you just arrived, and I want to hear you say something about the basketball star that was just killed in a helicopter crash. And you apparently you were not an admirer.
No,
No.
definitely not. I dated not dated. I married her. My ex-wife, second ex-wife was friends with Kobe Bryant's cousin, and so that whole California high school, college basketball. Back then it was like in the '90s. It was a lot of cliques. You had hip hop clique, you had the sports clique, you had poetry clique. You had a lot of. I'm not, and I don't know if it's the same today because I'm not nowhere near that age that I was then, which was 28. But anyway, it was really interesting. Baldwin Hills was an area that a lot of the black celebrities, just like the movie Love and Basketball, was pretty much just like that. So my ex-wife was from California, obviously Compton, and when I met the family, they were really really cool. They were pretty quiet. They were reserved. So later on in his career, when I learned that he did this horrendous irreprehensible act of rape, and I was shocked. Couldn't believe that the same guy and family that I met, the Bryant family, they were just seemed like quiet people. So I thought maybe he was drunk. I gave all these excuses, and then every day, it's not funny, but every day at the trial, I just became more depressed, or more information came out about the room and the environment, and then it just became this whole typical sports thing where a bunch of guys get together and they sexually assault a woman.
This is a little bit like the George Kavanaugh thing.
No.
No?
No, this was actually rape. Like, this was actually forcibly. And a number of my contemporaries that I looked up to were accused of similar acts. Tupac was actually accused of the same thing. He didn't. A lot of the information that come out to years later about people in the room and people, and the young lady came forward, 10, 15 years later after Tupac died. And it's been really researched. These hotel rooms where young women go into who are fans, or they're coerced and given something to drink, and that this is not at all like what Cosby did by drugging, but it was really, really with alcohol, applying women with alcohol, and then this was a typical thing that apparently was done. So for me, the conversation around Kobe Bryant, rest in peace to his daughter, and I'm really sad that I really believe Generation Z is our saviors, and they will work well with my generation, Generation X, and baby boomers. They're respectful, and so I think any loss from that generation, I'm very sad. Mr. Bryant, I can't possibly have a conversation about him without knowing about what he did to that young lady. And so I just, haven't said anything publicly. This is the first time I've said anything, online or social media or anything about it.
Yeah, my point was, and I was telling Karis, was that people who idolize him are making too much of a deal. Like he's not John Kennedy. Because they said, well, you will remember this day. The people remember when Kennedy was shot. You will remember the day Kobe Bryant died. It's like, really? I know he's a great sports person, but he's not John Kennedy.
But for some people, he was. And for people, especially who played basketball and were into sports, I think to Martin's point, some people can overlook, I'm going to say the word transgressions. It's not an appropriate term. It's probably much stronger than that. Violations,
Right.
crimes, can overlook crimes because they put someone on such a high pedestal. And so while us as maybe more level-headed individuals who look at all sides can look at this in different angles, there's some people that they're devastated and crying because they put this individual in such a high place.
I definitely think that he had a. So even the concept for me, I'm really strong on motivational speakers and people that push themselves forward, self-propelled people. And he started to come out in the last 2-3 years as a self-propelled person who openly talked about his methodology to motivation and work ethic and all that. The challenge I have with that is, it's like was it Pete Rose or any or Barry Bonds or any person that people put on a pedestal, and then you come to find out they took steroids, or you come to find out they were gambling on their game, or you come to find out, for me that's it nullified it. I can't take one without the other, and for me it's problematic. And the only case that I would say in my life, this age, that I have, I don't see the same scenario, is that I still believe that Michael Jackson accusations haven't been concretely proven. I believe that he's problematic as an individual, but so people say, well, let's separate the person from their work, what they did versus their legacy. And for me in sports, it's if you beat up people outside, like with Mayweather. I mean, he physically hit women numerous times. I can't, I don't care how fast he devastated people. I can't. He's not my greatest, fighter would be, George, because I believe in self-propelled individuals, George Foreman, because George Foreman is worth, close to $500 million after sports. He didn't lose his money. He's a family man. He took care of his kids, and you name all the George, but that's a little bit weird and a little problematic. Like, even his daughters are named Georgina, but
Yeah,
it's
well,
still.
Michael Jordan is a good example of somebody.
Well, you know what? I have a real problem with Michael Jordan. Up until he started talking about his children negatively. And so the arrogance in sports, for me, the sports thing is, can you be balanced? Can you find work-life balance? And I'm really learning at 50. I'm gonna say I really realized I've spent about 5 years with the college sports association as their social media person and marketing. So I was really around a lot of college athletes, track, football, and I didn't know this before. But I really realized the institution of sports with the NCAA, the scouts, all this, they actually create this environment. And we see it with the gymnastics. We see it with these scandals. There's actually an institutional environment for arrogance, for rape culture.
Cheating in college.
Right. It's actually a build, you actually can point to where the kid leaves Little League and goes to high school or middle school, and when he changed, you can actually point to the individual sometimes that actually had an impact. This kid could have came out and could have been really level-headed and could have been a great person, but they had to go through this structure, this vertical, in order to get into the NBA or NFL or into the right college. And so I think that we have to really pull back on sports, particularly. We really have to pull back. And like the Me Too, that's fine, but I think it's actually worse than Me Too, because I didn't know how many young women, or my current wife now, she was a victim of a rape by a football team, like a number of football players in college. And she went to a famous college, and the college didn't sweep it under the rug, but her father was the type of father that was on campus a lot and knew the campus police, and so he was able to make sure that everybody paid the price. But my point is that I didn't realize this structure this actual structure exists. So for me, it's like, I don't want my kids to play sports. I don't want my kids to almost go to college. It's just this thing where you really have to be this helicopter parent if you're going to, if that's the choice you make. So now I have a lot of respect for, I don't like, sometimes arrogance, but I have a lot of respect for Serena and Venus's father. Because the only way to keep those girls sane was to be the when people call them an a-hole, but to be that.
He was on top of them. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, you have to, everything. I just didn't realize how intense,
But this goes to your point that we're asking parents to be on top of the kids and the institutions. Why not ask the institutions?
Right. They need to partner.
Put
Yes.
in,
They need to. Yes.
Put in, how do we, when you're traveling, what are the rules and regulations? You're representing not only your team, your city, yourselves, your parents, your family. Don't mess up. We're not going to do this. We're not, and to be on
need
top
the
of
boosters that are going to the people that the names that are on the stadiums or the corporations, everybody that's making money. Gavin Newsom, I don't know if you heard about this. Gavin Newsom tweeted out, I forget the sports thing, the situation, but he tweeted out because California now allows the sports individuals to make money off of their likeness, the college student. And he tweeted that out in reference to something else that was happening. I'm trying to remember what has something happened 2 or 3 weeks ago in sports, and he was like, "Look, in California, it wouldn't be a problem." Odell Beckham gave fake money to kids on the that LSU team that won on the field, and they're not supposed to receive anything. And so there was supposed to be a big scandal because they were going to sanction the kids, but it was fake money. Like, well, at least that's what they said. It was fake money. Well, but the point is making that Gavin was like, look, you can come to California and do it. You can, because we actually believe that college students should own their likeness, not the league and not the school, not the association, to your point, and not the money behind those situations and not the alumni association.
Right.
But the actual individual should own their likeness. I don't know if you know this.
Yeah.
There was the first video game from Electronic Arts. It was the NCAA had all the schools, different teams. Well, 3 of the players realized that their likeness was on this game. They sued and won. And they built, these are 3 former players, they're in their about 60s now. But they built an infrastructure, the lawsuit money went into a fund for college athletes to figure it out.
Señores oyentes de USALA Media, estamos aquí en la mesa redonda de Round Table. Hemos llegado al final de este segmento. Vamos a tomar una pausa. Aquí está con Martín Pratt, Karis Painter, Johan Bermúdez desmanejando el tablero. Les habla Fernando Mendez. Regresamos en un momento.
Our hearts are made stronger by how we treat others.
Put her there.
The light you share can impact those around you, but so can the darkness.
Later, twerps.
Did Pete saying mean things bother you?
So when you reach out to another person, take a moment to consider how they will feel and let your heart be the key to making a difference. Because of you, someone's entire day, year, or even life can change.
In every heart, there's hope.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma. I have a mentor, and she convinced me to continue my education. No one receives a diploma alone. If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, go get it. You can do it.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Señores oyentes de USALA Media, bienvenidos a la mesa redonda. Les habla Fernando Méndez, Martin Pratt
Hola.
al micrófono. Buenos días, Martin. And está con nosotros la persona que abrió el programa porque el suscrito llegó un poco tarde. Y Karis Painter, hablando de medio ambiente, del environment, tratando de explicar cómo debemos a salvar al mundo poco a poco,
Sí,
sabiendo cómo usar estos plásticos.
Sí.
¿Qué hacer con esto?
Antes de esta conversación, I'll speak in English for Martin. I want to make the point that my question is, why are you going to college to train to be a pro player and you're getting paid and you're getting a degree while somebody is maybe studying history or studying economics, or maybe they go to art school and they're not getting a salary from anyone to produce art? I think it's a question that we need to maybe reconsider sports in college, not just on a financial level, but what is the point? And maybe there needs to be a different kind of setting. And I said to Martin at the break, maybe a 2-year kind of conservatory pre-pro program that allows them to practice all the time. If they have morning practices and afternoon practices, there's no way you're attending class and studying with the same rigor that other more traditionally academic-minded students are putting into the work.
I think a free education will solve that problem.
I think that when you look at some of the more Ivy League schools that have sports teams, I know quite a few now retired NFL players that went to like Georgia Tech, or they went to and did pretty well. So
Princeton, Penn.
Yeah, they went into the league and they got out at a certain age because they. So my point is this: I think I think that's an interesting concept. I would probably say if that was to happen, you need to change the entire structure of NCAA and make it almost a separate. Like you're basically pulling out sports out of college or something. So my only challenge with that is that if you're a real athlete, not a somebody who's just trying to pursue fame and fortune, but a real athlete, somebody who really believes in hard work, structure, and stuff like that, I think they could benefit from the college environment. I think a true athlete, and I think you see it at more Ivy League schools, not schools that are, to your point, basically just sports farms. They basically, there's a school and it's a college, and it's accredited, but they're really just producing, football players. Right. They're really just producing. And to that point, what's going to be interesting is, I don't know if you've been following what's happening in esports, but now the National Association of High School Sports has allowed esports to be registered as a high school sports. So think about, to your point, geeks and gamers, and they'll be coming to class like, I need to be back in my my what do we call it, my esports lab and training and beating people in this game. Why am I in this class? But they're smart, right? And so they're like, why am I in philosophy when I already know how to code, I already know how to play a game? I'm gonna make most gamers, if they during their lifespan of game, which is usually like only 2 years, they make between $40,000 to $100,000 a month. So even though that's not, it's only 2 year span, so it's like maybe 2 million, or 2.5. The really great ones can continue for a while because it's carpal tunnel is what happens to a gamer. So I hear what you're saying. I think you'd have to fully change the entire structure. I think what better and easier thing to do is to really try to get people back to having hard work, dedication, having a structure of, this is I'm pursuing my passion, and I think this is my purpose on the planet, and I'm going to have a balance. I think that works. I don't know if we can, change the entire structure, like with the Olympics, right? Like make it, everything's amateur, make everything amateur.
Yes.
And then who supports it? One of the soccer in DC, soccer is really starting to take off amongst the young people. And so I was asking it was an Uber driver, and I was asking him about this league, and he was saying back in his country, which was either Colombia or Ecuador, he was saying there are rich people, that support a high school. And that high school has a great field. And then that field, that produces these soccer players. And from there, they go from high school directly into a club. But because of the wealth of the person, that club owner or that person that's supporting that club, that patron, is concerned about their education. So they're making sure that now the club is attached to a college. But they're going to be doing soccer on the weekend. They're going to be doing soccer, early in the morning. They'll be training like they would normally train. But because it's this wealthy patron, they're making sure they have a well-rounded education.
That's the
I'm gonna-
European level. And Barcelona and Real Madrid, they take the kids actually
Right.
from very young.
Yes.
And they bring them into the club.
Right.
And they start playing for them
Right.
and educating them.
Right.
And training them.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate and say all of this is great. and
You are the devil.
well, the idea I was
You just call
rolling
it El Diablo. What?
the gaming in high school. I would say all of this focus on sports, and Fernando and I talked about this last week. The arts. I'm okay with some of this work in sports, or the push for this rigor in sports, but if that means that there's no music program, if that means there's no art program, no journalism program, that's when I start to question, why are we so focused on that? And what about the students who don't want to play sports? I wanted nothing to do with
Or
sports.
having a healthy meal. I remember one
Correct.
college, a progressive president, Paul Quinn College, is called a historically black college. He shut down a football team, and he turned the field into a farm to make sure that he was like, I can afford to have the team, or I can afford to feed my kids healthy food. I can't do both. I don't have enough money.
That's a bit extreme. But,
And so,
yeah, I
well,
can
but
see
they
it.
weren't doing a great. They weren't a great team anyway. So it's
Right.
like you know, it's like it's and what he was able to do with that, he was able to garner more federal funds because
Yeah.
he then became a land grant college, and so he actually smart. So that's the thing. It's like, to your point, where's the balance? And sometimes the balance can be, I actually can make more money doing better and making a round-rounded person than I can as a school. I
Right.
can't having
and
a
why
sports
is it
team.
always about money? And that's a whole other conversation.
Because
About
money's what runs this country.
But we need to
Right.
ask those questions.
Right.
Why is it always
Well, this
about
is a
money?
It's always
this is a
about
trading
money.
post. This is not a country. This is a trading post.
Okay, people, I'm going to use my powers of executive powers to say we have a few minutes to discuss what is going on in Washington. And what's going on in Washington is that John Bolton's book has leaked. And there's a New York Times report that revealed a bombshell excerpt from Bolton's forthcoming book that could prove pivotal in President Trump's impeachment trial.
When you look at me,
So,
I think we talked about this last week, Fernando. I think we all need to be aware of as much quality information as possible. And if information comes out that provides more details to what happened, I think we need to digest that and look at it. But if we already come to the table with preconceived notions and bias, then the information doesn't matter.
well, this report is very pertinent because it has to be true. Bolton wouldn't be making this up. It says that the president said he wanted to continue freezing $391 million in security assistance to Ukraine until they agreed to investigations into the Democrats.
So instead of promoting the book, let's subpoena him and hear what he has to say. I also read that he should hold a press conference. The idea that you're holding information in a book when there's an impeachment trial going on and the country wants to know about this.
But it's not his fault that he's not been able to give a testimony.
Right.
Trump blocked all White House people. Now, he's no longer employed by the White House, so he's a free agent in that sense.
Correct.
But and now it's up to the Senate. If they want to hear him, they want to impeach him, go ahead.
But he could also, as Parnas released over the weekend, the video, or his lawyers released the video of the conversation that was had with Trump's directing the firing of the ambassador to Ukraine. They released that. Bolton could release something. He could release a statement. He could do an op-ed in the paper. He could come out.
Well, Trump is accusing Bolton of trying to sell a book, and he denies that he ever told him anything, obviously.
Well, everybody's always trying to sell a book.
Yeah, right.
Going
Do you
back to
ha-
Martin's
Do you,
point.
do you have a book?
I don't have a book. I don't have
Martin,
enough
do you have
material
a
for
book?
No, I don't.
No, I don't have a book.
But nobody writes a book for nobody to read. You write a book and then you promote it.
Right.
Right. Anyway, thank you, both of you, for being with us. Because
Subpoena Bolton.
it's important to remember that we must protect the environment.
Reduce our plastic use. This is our campaign for the month of February. Reduce the amount of disposable plastic that you take.
Yeah. And with that, we come to the end of this episode of La Mesa Redonda. Se despide Fernando Mendez en compañía de Johan Bermúdez al tablero, Martin Pratt on the microphone, and Karis Painter came to talk to us about the environment. Hasta la próxima.